Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Good morning. We're so glad you joined us at CBST for our Yoga Meditation Shabbat. This is a special service that happens once a month where we bring our full bodies and minds and spirits to the Shabbat morning service, playing with different modalities of prayer and of learning. I'm Rabbi Yael Rapport. And this morning, I am joined in leadership by two amazing members of CBST, Nora Isacoff and Rachel Kruchten. On this particular Yoga Shabbat morning, we'll be taking a journey through song and poetry and meditation, special musical selections, all following the thread of an idea that is presented to us in this week's Torah portion, Parashat Yitro. As with every Yoga Meditation Shabbat, there will be lots of different forms of prayer, maybe some new pieces of music, but we promise there will be an opportunity to offer prayers for healing of the body, mind, or spirit, for yourself or someone you love. There will be a section of the service dedicated to a private Amidah for those who wish to move through the whole Matbea Tefillah or to do your own yoga flow or contemplative thinking. We will be engaging in Torah reading and Torah study. And there's going to be a chance to remember those we love with the recitation of Kaddish in a minyan. But to begin this morning, we offer this musical setting asking us to open up our eyes, similarly to open up our hearts, just as the tents of the children of Israel were open to everyone who wished to enter, the way that Abraham and Sarah's tent was open, and the way that the prophet Bilam saw the children of Israel's tents arrayed before him, and he sang the prayer, Ma Tovu. Nora will lead us in this beginning prayer, and as the music catches in your ear, we invite you to join us from home and sing along.
Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love.
Ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael.
Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love.
In planning for this service and thinking about themes that seem to be present, we had discussed the idea of concentric circles and interdependence. In the Parsha for today, we hear the Ten Commandments read, with the ultimate clear rules that are meant to be the social contract for our people. But how do we navigate when our own needs are in conflict with the social contract? In the current moment of the pandemic and the chaos of the last few weeks, it seems ever present that the social contract is not unilaterally adhered to, or that people are perhaps putting their own needs ahead of the collective. We have been wondering about this image of concentric circles. with each one of us at the center, rippling outward to include larger and larger groups of people and communities. Part of the constant struggle in our lives comes from when the needs of these circles conflict, or when there are different meanings attached to those needs. This tension is always with us, and we see this even in the Parsha for this week. What does it mean that a people recently freed from bondage and slavery needed to adhere to a social contract that includes explicit mention of stealing, murder, honoring the Sabbath? Are there any commandments we feel are missing? Are there new ones we should add in keeping with the current moment? We'd love for you to keep this theme of interdependence and conflict in mind as we move through the service, and imagine the image of the ripple on the water when a single raindrop falls. When we are faced with these conflicts, we have a choice in what we turn to. Do we turn to the readings of the collective or think about our independent needs?
So let's all close our eyes for just a few moments and think about this image that Rachel just described of a stone being tossed into a pond. We are each at the very center of our circles, where the stone first pierces the water. We might feel this point of impact most acutely. So let's recognize the feeling of being at the center of our own lives, of being our own starting points for discerning and navigating the world. Let's sit up tall with our shoulders back, taking up all the space in the room, feeling as fierce as the impact of that stone. But now, let's plant our feet firmly on the ground. We are not just our own individual circle. We're rooted in the earth. Let's send our energy through our toes into the ground and feel the earth returning this gift of energy to us, rippling out as we feel our place within a larger circle. And now let's allow that energy to rise slowly through our legs, through our torsos, out through our arms, into our fingertips. Keep your eyes closed, but note that everyone in our little community that we formed here this morning is doing this too. Picture sharing that energy with each other and receiving it back, together forming a fuller circle. And finally, stretch your arms out wide over your head and let out an exhale. Sending that energy past our minion, rippling through to the rest of the CBST community, to the city where you live, to the country where you live, and finally to the whole planet. And feel what it's like for just a moment to know that we are all connected. We are all only one point in the circle, and the circle needs each one of us to be complete. Take just one more minute. And now you can open your eyes. And so to begin, we must see ourselves and each other in our purest forms, as gentle and unaffected as a deep sigh. My God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it, you formed it, and you breathed it into me. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama.
Elohai nishama shanatata bi. The Hebrew word nishama, which means soul, is inextricably connected to our breath. And so as we move through the prayers of the Shacharit service, we recognize that which is ineffable, a spark within us that was breathed into us, that is completely unique, and yet breathed into us the same way across humanity. And so our next prayer, Nishmat Kol Chai, let every living thing that breathes, let every soul praise your name, God, is connected so closely that we have recognized every person's individuality, and we unite our voices in song and praise. Nishmat Kol Chai, Tivarech et Shimcha, Adonai, Eloheinu, Nishmat Kol Chai, Tivarech et Shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu. Yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai 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 dai dai dai. Nishmat Kol Chai, Tivarech et Shimcha, Adonai, Eloheinu, Nishmat Kol Chai, Tivarech et Shimcha, Adonai, Eloheinu.
And now we're going to turn to a poem from Marge Piercy. We were looking at the interpretive Nishmat Kol Chai this week, and we thought it might be a nice exercise if everyone can take a look and see if there are any lines that resonate with you deeply. Feel free to raise your hand and contribute or write in the chat. So take a moment and look at the poem itself and feel free to contribute when you're ready. I'll start with a line that resonates with me. Every day we find a new sky and a new earth.
We are given the wind within us, the breath to shape into words that steal time.
I was just going to say the same line that Nora said, that we are given the wind within us, the breath to shape into words that steal time, and that especially how how Rabbi Rapport was talking about the way soul and breath are so interconnected.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom. I was struck by then we rise into the day still clean as new snow. I love that line.
This is Batya. I like we stand in the midst of the burning world. So maybe I've gone ahead, but I'm stuck there, primed to burn with compassionate love and justice.
We are lent for a time these minerals and water, and mourning every day, a morning to wake up.
Let the little quarrels of the bones and the snarling of lesser appetites and the whining of ego cease.
We are given passion to rise like the sun in our minds with the new day and burn the debris of habit and greed and fear.
I was busy reading, so I'm not sure if I heard this from somebody else, but I like that we are given the wind, the breath to shape into words that steal time, that one's words live beyond the time one's living in, is how I see that.
As contributed in the chat, the next line of our collective poem is, "The cat washes its paw and greets the day with gratitude."
Every day we find a new sky and a new earth with which we are trusted like a perfect toy.
I actually like the cat washes its paw and greets the day with gratitude. But I also like, let silence still us so you may show us your shining and we can out of that stillness rise and praise.
There are a few more in the chat, and then we'll have to close out. We are given fire to see against the dark, to think, to read, to study how we are to live. We are given the body, the momentary kibitz of elements. And I'd like to close with the last three stanzas. We are given fire to see against the dark, to think, to read, to study how we are to live. To bank in ourselves against defeat and despair, that cool and muddy our resolves, that make us forget what we saw we must do. We are given passion to rise like the sun in our minds with the new day and burn the debris of habit and greed and fear. We stand in the midst of the burning world, primed to burn with compassionate love and justice, to turn inward and find holy fire at the core, to turn outward and see the world that is all of one flesh with us, see under the trash, through the smog, the furry bee in the apple blossom, the trout leaping, the candles our ancestors lit for us. Fill us as the tide rustles into the reeds in the marsh. Fill us as the rushing water overflows the pitcher. Fill us as light fills a room with its dancing. Let the little quarrels of the bones and the snarling of the lesser appetites and the whining of the ego cease. Let silence still us, so you may show us your shining, and we can out of that stillness rise and praise. Nishmat kol chai, tevarech et shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu. Nishmat kol chai, tevarech et shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu. Yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai. Nishmat kol chai, tevarech et shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu. Nishmat kol chai, tevarech et shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu.
We offer a prayer for God's boundless love. Ahava Rabbah, how deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God. As I call out the line, you can join Rachel in the words of the echo, the exact same words, the exact same music. Just one line from this beautiful prayer. Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu, how deeply you have loved us, Adonai Eloheinu. Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahavtanu,
Ahavtanu.
how deeply you have loved us.
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 Adonai Eloheinu,
Adonai Eloheinu.
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahava Rabbah,
Ahavtanu.
Ahavtanu.
We may choose to cover our eyes in order to focus for the Shema. It is sometimes traditional to take the 3 fingers of your hand and put them as 4 frontlets between your eyes to symbolize the letter Shin, which begins Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, Veshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam. Veshivtecha b'vetecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvkumecha. Ukshartam me'od al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha. Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Please take just a couple moments to continue with the biblical passages of the Ve'ahavta if you choose, or to have a moment for meditation and breathing on this ongoing theme of love that supports us and lifts us throughout our prayers.
A great pianist was once asked by an ardent admirer, "How do you handle the notes as well as you do?" The artist answered, "The notes I handle no better than many pianists, but the pauses between the notes, that is where the art resides." In great living, as in great music, the art may be in the pauses. And that's attributed at least to Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. Shabbat, a pause in creation, is therefore central to the art of living. Let us honor this pause in our week, reconnecting with ourselves and each other, making space for the week ahead. V'shomeru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. בני ובן בני ישראל, אותי לעולם לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת, שבת ויהי נפל.
As we move into the central spinal column of the service, the Amidah, those prayers which are traditionally recited while standing, we enter into a place of great vulnerability. So far, we have had our voices surrounded in chorus. As difficult as that is on Zoom, we know that other voices are being raised at the same time as ours. We follow the leader, we follow the music. But as we step into the Amidah, it's our voice alone. We might experience some doubts. Is there anybody listening on the other end of the line? Are we really listening to the prayers that we hold inside? Are we comfortable enough with the quiet, with the noise of our own thoughts? Doubting is but the forefront of faith, a faith in the infinite growth of an unbounded creation. A doubting age is one of restlessness and discontent with what is current. A doubt is an idea that is still alive. To doubt that the past has uncovered all things is to express faith that many things are still to be uncovered. To doubt that we have grown to our full stature and knowledge is to express faith that we may yet develop into beings of such power and dignity that we cannot as yet imagine what shall be. We invite you in this space of the Amidah to step into your doubt, perhaps as discomforting as that may seem. But doubt is holy. Doubt is honored. Doubt is central to being Jewish because it means we have the courage to imagine that the world as it is has potential to evolve and to grow into the world as it could be. And so we recite the words Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. After we sing these words together, we'll have some space for quiet reflection, for expressions of faith, of doubt, of everything in between. And you can use this time as you choose to share the words of the formal tefillah or to focus on the words of your heart. And when we return, the rainbow flag will be flying again. Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. If you're still in the midst of your prayers, please don't stop. At CBST, we have a unique tradition when it comes to Birkat Kohanim, the blessing that was traditionally given by the priest of the children of Israel. And it's in this Torah portion that we see carefully so many hierarchical structures being built in the culture of ancient Israel. On Yitro's advice, it isn't just one at the top and then everybody underneath, but Moses is enabled to delegate responsibility, to share power, to share closeness with God, and to open up to other interpretations of God's teachings by naming a whole new category of leaders. And similarly, too, with the Birkat Kohanim, while traditionally this was a privilege that was granted to an individual to bless the entire congregation by virtue of their genetic lineage, that they were connected to the Kohanim, the priestly class. At CBST, we've embraced the tradition of everyone having the potential to bless one another, of being worthy to give and to receive blessing. And so we invite you, if you're wearing a talit, a prayer shawl this morning, to lift it up so it covers your head and also enfolds your Zoom screen so that everybody is surrounded with the embrace of our blessings for one another. Nora and Rachel and I will each be offering one line of this tri-fold blessing in Hebrew and its English translation. You can respond to our words with the Hebrew Kain Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will, or at the very end you can say Amen. Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
Ken Yehi Ratzon.
May God bless you. May God protect you.
Yael Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha.
Ken Yehi Ratzon.
May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. Shalom.
Ken Yehi Ratzon.
May God's face be lifted upon you, and may God grant you the blessing of peace.
Amen. As we begin to transition into the reading of sacred text, we have a special blessing for our entire community that we offer as we approach words of Torah. And Rachel will be leading us in this prayer.
Prayer for our congregation. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah, bless this entire congregation, together with all holy congregations, them, their families of origin and of choice, and all that is theirs, along with those who unite to establish synagogues for prayer, and those who enter them to pray, and those who give funds for heat and light, and wine for Kaddish and Havdalah, bread to the wayfarer and charity to the poor, and all who devotedly involve themselves with the needs of this community and the land of Israel. May the Holy One reward them. May God remove sickness from them, heal them, and forgive their sins. May God bless them by prospering all their worthy endeavors, as well as those of the entire people of Israel. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. This morning we will be chanting 2 aliyot from Parashat Yitro. The very first that will be chanted by Rachel is the section of Yitro's consideration that he puts before Moses a new way to structure the responsibility, the accountability, and the engagement with community. Rachel will be blessing and chanting this aliyah. I'll be sharing the words of Torah on the screen so you can follow along right from our CBST Torah scroll. And with this aliyah, we would like to honor any smachot, any good things that have happened in the past week to anybody. So if you would put into the chat, what's a simcha that you've recognized in the past week? We honor your joy with this aliyah.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim Menatan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayahi mimacharat, vayeshev Moshe lishpat et ha'am, vayomer ha'am al Moshe, min haboker ad ha'arev, vayar chotein Moshe, et kol asher hu oseh la'am, vayomer, ma hadavar hazeh, asher ata oseh la'am, Madua ata yoshev levadecha v'chol ha'am nitzav alecha min boker ad arev. Vayomer Moshe lechotno ki avo elai ha'am lidrosh Elohim. Ki yehiyeh lahem davar ba'ilai v'shafati beini shuvein rehu. V'hodati et chukai ha'Elohim v'et toratav. Vayomer chotein Moshe elav, lo tov hadavar asher ata oseh. Navoti bo gam ata, gam ha'am hazeh asher imach, ki chaved mimecha hadavar, lo tuchol asahu levadecha. Ata shema bekoli yatzilcha, vayahi Elohim imach, hayeh ata la'am, mul ha'Elohim v'haveta ata, et hadarim el ha'Elohim, v'hisarta ethem, et hachukim v'et toratot, v'hodata lahem, et haderech yachuva, v'et hamaseh asher yasun, v'ata techazeh b'chol ha'am, anshe chayil yareh Elohim, anshe emet shnai v'tzah, v'samta alehem, sarai alafim, sarai meot, sarai chamashim, v'sarai asarot, v'shavtu et ha'am b'chol eit, v'haya kol hadavar hagadol yeveu elecha, v'chol hadavar hakatan yishbatu heim, v'hakel me'alecha v'nasu itach. Im et hadavar hazeh taseh, v'tzivecha Elohim v'achata amot, v'gam kol ha'am hazeh, al mekomo yavo v'shalom. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch ata Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Kol hakavod, Rachel, for a beautiful aliyah. And kol hakavod, we honor everybody who has such beautiful things to share, joyful moments from the past week. Please, please look at the chat because the cup is overflowing in our community. And it's so important to honor these joyful moments. There are people who are getting their vaccine and their vaccine appointments. We're celebrating pandemic love and new life. The first openly gay US cabinet member being sworn in by the female vice president. There are people who are grateful for all kinds of Torah that they've been learning at CBST, deepening friendships, having the US cabinet reflect the diversity of the United States. Wow, Lisa's stem cell recipient is celebrating 10 years being cancer-free. What an extraordinary mitzvah. The natural world where snowdrops are in bloom all around, and great food, community, and light, despite and maybe even because of it all. Our next aliyah is a very special aliyah. It is the first time we hear Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 commandments in the Torah. And as Sabrina Farber, the president of the CBST board of directors, taught us last night in her drasha, it's notable and special that this pinnacle moment in the Jewish experience, when we receive the outline of this social contract from God through Moses, is in a Torah portion that is named for a non-Jewish person who made an extraordinary contribution to Jewish life forever. It said that Yitro was such a generous and compassionate person that his honor throughout time is that his name adorns the Torah portion in which we find our 10 commandments. Jonathan Adler is going to be chanting this very special aliyah. Jonathan, can we hear you say Shabbat Shalom?
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Jonathan is a student at the Jewish Theological Seminary. He will, by God's grace, soon be a rabbi, which is why he's one of my very favorite people to call upon to teach a little bit of Torah. Jonathan, is there anything you want to tell us?
I'm just going to say that one of the things that the rabbis teach us is that we were all present at Mount Sinai, all of the Jews who ever have been, who are, and who will be. We were all there together when the 10 commandments were given to Israel. It's also a tradition that when the Aseret HaDibrot is read in the synagogue, that the congregation rises. And so I'll make a motion so that everyone knows that that's beginning, because it's not the beginning of it, starts a few verses into the Aliyah. I'll make a gesture so that you know, please rise in body or in spirit or in a way that is meaningful for you. And remember that you were there at Sinai when these words first came from God to Moshe.
All right. So I will share the screen so that you can see inside the Torah, a personal view of the beautiful layout of this particular Torah portion. You can see where the 10 commandments come because they're so artfully placed. And this aliyah is one for refuah, one for healing, because right after this aliyah, we'll be reciting a prayer for communal healing for anybody who's in need of healing of body, mind, or spirit. And so at this point, as Jonathan recites the blessing for the aliyah, I invite anybody who would like to share a name in the chat of a person you pray for healing and continued strength.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMavorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMavorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMavorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vayered Adonai al har Sinai el Rosh Hahar. Vayikra Adonai leMoshe el Rosh Hahar. Vaya'al Moshe. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe. Reid ha'ed ba'am. Pen yeharsu el Adonai lirot. V'nafal mimenu rav. V'gam ha'kohanim. V'hanigashim el Adonai yitkadashu, v'nifrotz bahem Adonai, v'yomer Moshe el Adonai, lo yuchal ha'am la'alot el har Sinai, ki ata ha'edota banu lemor, agbel et hahar, l'kidashto, v'yomer elav Adonai lechored, ve'alita ata ve'aharon imach, ve'hakohanim ve'ha'am, al yehersu la'alot el Adonai, pen yifrotz bam, va'yerod Moshe el ha'am, va'yomer alehem, va'yidaber Elohim et kol hadvarim ha'ele lemor, Anochi Adonai Elohecha, asher hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mi-beit avadim, lo yihye lecha Elohim acherim al panai, lo ta'aseh lecha pesel v'chol temuna asher bashamayim mimal ve'asher ba'aretz mitachat ve'asher b'mayim mitachat la'aretz, lo tishtachave lahem ve'lo ta'ovdem, ki anochi Adonai Elohecha el kana, Poked avon avot al banim, al sheleshim ve'al ribeim leshonai, ve'oseh chesed la'alafim, la'ohavai ul'shomrei mitzvotai, lo tisa et shem Adonai Elohecha lashav, ki lo yenakeh Adonai et asher yisa et shemo lashav, zechor et yom hashabbat lekadsho, sheshet yamim ta'avod, ve'asita kol melachtecha, vayom hashvi shavat l'Adonai Elohecha, lo ta'aseh kol malacha ata uvincha uvitecha avadcha v'amatecha uvehimtecha v'gerecha asher bish'arecha, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, et hayam ve'et kol asher bam, vayanach bayom hashvi'i, al ken beirach Adonai et yom hashabbat vaykadshehu, kabed et avicha ve'et imecha, lema'an ya'arichun yamecha, al ha'adama asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach, lo tirtzach, lo tin'af, lo tignov, lo ta'aneh v'reyecha eid sheker, lo tachmod beit reyecha, lo tachmod eshet reyecha, ve'avado ve'amato v'shoro v'chamoro, v'chol asher l'reyecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Jonathan, that was done with great strength, and kol hakavod for sharing with us this incredibly special section of the Torah.
Thank you for the wonderful honor of being asked to read it this morning, Rabbi Rapport. Thank you so much. Good job, everybody.
And so we move as we are in this apex moment of our service. We are so close to sacred words. Many of these words are the ones that emblazon our moral orientation, the 10 Commandments, and the ways that we honor one another. It's at this moment that we turn our hearts and our prayers to those who are in need of healing. And so this morning, we hold in our hearts everyone whose name was shared in the chat for healing. And we add to these names the names of our CBST community members: Susan Aaron, Sasha Rezel Bachana, Shana Resha Bachana, Or Kalav Ben Chedva Daphna Charles, Ron Cohen, Samantha Davis, Lloyd Epstein, Saratova Batarav Dov Vashena, Dan Jacobson, Marcel Kshinsky, Jack Myers, Rivka Bat Miriam Malka Vayidel, Barbara Moniz, Asher Ben Mordechai Vazisman, Stanley Perlberg, Marilyn Ratnella, Maya Rapport, Ellen Ratner, Edward Rubart, Barbara Rosen, Shlomo Zalman Ben Shena Risha, Kiev Tetra, and Urvashi Vad. This morning, we're sharing a special blessing for healing by Shir Yaakov Veit that Nora will lead us in.
Healer of the broken-hearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars, you know who they are. Healer of the broken-hearted, binder of our wounds, counter of uncountable stars, you know who we are. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Anna, Rivana, hallelujah, hallelujah.
May all of these names that we have shared, may all of these souls be visited with blessing. And may our prayers and our wishes for healers and for healing extend beyond our immediate circle and ripple out into the whole world. We'll now dive deeper into these words of Torah and their significance for this particular moment.
This week's Parsha begins with Moses and his family, each having left Egypt and reuniting in the wilderness. The immediate feeling is intense joy, but this fades as everyone begins to grapple with how to settle everyday conflicts between neighbors, which is really a much bigger question about how society should be organized. Moses's initial structure works like this. Moses knows what God wants, so if the people come to Moses with every conflict, Moses can work as the middleman speaking for God. But Yitro, who's Moses's father-in-law for whom the Parsha is named, tells Moses this is way too big a job for one person. He suggests instead a deeper hierarchy, with each group of people represented by a leader chosen by Moses. This representative can decide small disputes and can bring big disputes to Moses. And when it really matters, God will make a direct appearance. It is God who delivers the 10 Commandments to the people. So we'll have to wait for future Parshiot to see how this new structure pans out. But my first reaction to Yitro's plan is mixed. On the one hand, it's a major improvement over Moses micromanaging every minor kvetch. On the other hand, why does Moses get to decide who represents the people? And why is Moses so sure he knows what God wants? Personally, I would never trust anyone who is so sure about what God wants. Even a leader who has led people out of Egypt and parted a sea needs checks and balances. And a society needs to hear from everyone, not just from those with the biggest platform. And yet, as Yitro suggests, we need structure. We can't simply have each person speaking for themselves, trying to shout a word into the cacophony. And so we find ourselves now in this present post-inauguration day moment, initially overjoyed to be out of Egypt, but in a fierce debate about who should make decisions, big and small. We still disagree about how representatives should be chosen. Moses, Yitro, the Electoral College, the popular vote. We're still grappling with the tension between personal freedom and public safety. Are masks required? Are guns allowed? Is healthcare a right? And these questions come up in our personal and communal lives as well. How should decisions be made within our shul, our places of work, our families? Do we rely on each individual person to navigate decisions about whether it's safe to eat in a restaurant during COVID, making assumptions about people's ability to access and interpret the science and use it to make complex medical and ethical decisions? Or do we trust that we've built systems in which people elect representatives and those representatives consult with experts to make decisions in the best interest of all their constituents? Or at least we work to build such systems. For me, this Parsha is about the core value of social contracts. We all must agree that our very survival depends on authentically expressing our own needs, making space for others to authentically express their needs, and being committed to jointly cultivating systems that reflect these needs. In this Parsha, one such system is a set of laws, many of which are still central today. If we've all agreed we won't kill each other, for example, and we've set up a system for enacting this agreement, we can see the traffic light in front of us is green and feel confident that we can go without worrying that the car stopped at the cross street will suddenly smash into us. This system ultimately benefits all of us, even if it means we might sometimes have to wait impatiently for our turn to go. Thou shalt not kill is still just as relevant today as it was in Moses's day. But it's been a while since those 10 commandments were first presented. So I'd like to open up for just a few minutes and ask if anyone has thoughts of additional commandments, laws you'd like to suggest that we should all be able to agree upon so we can live safe, meaningful lives. Let's keep our ideas brief as they are in the 10 commandments. And I'll go first with 2 new commandments that I referenced a couple of moments ago. We shall all express our needs as best as we are able, and we shall all make space to listen to and really try to understand others' needs. So what are some other modern day commandments that you'd like to add? And you can raise your hand with the hand raise function and we'll call on you.
You can also put ideas into the chat, or I'm in gallery view so I can see everybody's beautiful face. I'll do my best to scroll back and forth. If you're waving frantically, I'll try to make sure to call on you. But I see that Jonathan Adler has a virtual hand raised. Jonathan, what's your new commandment?
Love yourself. Love yourself. I think it's a really important idea. It's maybe we should all think about more.
Beautiful. We have some commandment suggestions in the chat that no one should go hungry. There shall be no QAnon in Congress. Treat all living things with compassion and love. Take a lot of deep breaths before you do anything. Try Nora's breathing exercise. Share your bounty with those who do not have what you have. And Beth, what's your commandment?
To honor our world and all the creatures that are in it.
Beautiful. Thou shalt not disregard another based on her color or her gender. Be true to yourself, which I think fits beautifully with Jonathan's suggestion of a commandment to love yourself. Take care of the planet. Ira and Beth are on the same page that our social contract needs to extend beyond just the human creatures on the planet to encompass the whole planet. Sarah, what's your suggestion of a commandment?
Off of Jonathan and then Sharon's point is be kind to yourself, and in the sense it is because I think a lot of us are not necessarily kind to ourselves.
That's well observed. Thank you, Sarah. Does anybody else have commandments that they'd like to suggest for consideration in the chat or raising your, oh, I see Joel Moses. Joel, what's your commandment? Oh, sorry, I think I accidentally muted you. There you go.
It was Plato, he put it more poetically, but basically be aware that every person you meet is sometimes struggling. So try to understand, even when they're being difficult, that they're struggling. Almost every person alive is struggling, and try to remember that when you have to deal with them when they're difficult.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Joel. Ancient wisdom updated for now, just like these 10 commandments. We have a suggestion: all nations shall implement donut economies, which take into account all creatures and nature. I would also not mind if donuts were available to everybody. Have more humility. Have deep compassion for others. Rafaela is kind of on the same page with Joel and Plato. Others who would like to virtually, physically raise a hand or contribute an addition to the 10 commandments in our chat. Self-love is the new relationship status. And I'm struck so deeply by the ongoing thread through our tapestry of commandments about love, especially love for ourselves and compassion for ourselves, compassion for others. And as Shlomit has so eloquently put in the chat, love is love. One of my favorite things about that is it connects to, maybe the most important commandment that was identified by the Talmudic rabbis. Many people call it the golden rule, and it's repeated in Torah over and over again. Ve'ahavta re'echa kamocha. You should love your neighbor as yourself. The rest is commentary. Thou shalt not accumulate more wealth than you can give or spend in your lifetime, which seems like a very good check on the balance of wealth acquisition. And any other contributions to our communal commandments? Bringing us from the ancient words of Torah to today. Well, thank you for all of these loving words for members of our community, for ourselves, for people who are very close to us, for the entire community of concern and the whole planet. These commandments are deep and also broad ranging. Early to bed, early to rise makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise. Eric, was that Benjamin Franklin? Maybe that's also some very good advice in terms of commandments. Nora, as our misaderet, as our kind of orderer of this conversation, is there anything that you'd like to say to close?
Well, I might want to disagree with this early to bed, early to rise one. I'm not, at least I'm not achieving that one myself these days, but
aspirational. Well,
to aspire to, yes. But no, thank you everyone for sharing updated commandments. And I'm so grateful to be part of a community where we all aspire to these values and try to treat ourselves and each other with love.
So we call our Torah an Eitz Chaim, a tree of life, and also a living tree. And it's such an extraordinary concept to say that the document that is so precious to our people is not static, it's not crystallized and forever fixed in its meaning, that there's enough space within it for each of us to find ourselves and for each of us to contribute to its growth and to its blossoming. Much like other sacred texts, like the Constitution or like other social contracts, we recognize that it grows and it changes with us, but yet deep within it, there is essential wisdom that can help all of us to grow. And so we close our Torah study with the singing of Eitz Chaim Hi, it is a tree of life to those who hold it fast.
Eitz Chaim hi lamachzikim ba v'tomcheha meushar deracheha tarchenoam v'chol netzivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Kadesh Ameinu keketem.
As we move to the closure of our service, within the prayer Aleinu L'Shabeach, which tells us it's up to us to carry out this vision, it's up to us to affect the world and have it grow as it could be. There's one line that says, V'hashevota el levavcha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim. Let these words sink into your heart, that Adonai is one, our God is one, the very first of the 10 commandments. And so we allow these words of Torah to sink into our hearts. This is another call and response prayer. So I will call and Nora will respond, and you are invited to lift your voice with Nora's as we move through this concluding blessing. V'hashevota
Hashevota
el levavcha
elevavcha
ki Adonai
Adonai
hu ha'Elohim
hu ha'Elohim
v'hashevota
v'hashevota
el levavcha
elevavcha
ki Adonai
Adonai
hu ha'Elohim
hu ha'Elohim
v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. On that day, God's name shall be one. When we let those words sink into us, when we treat ourselves and others, our entire planet, with love and respect, then shall we see a vision of the world redeemed. As we do any time a Jewish community gathers together, we circle with love and protection those who have experienced loss, both recent and in past days, those who are feeling the loss of this particular season or who are just reminded of a person that they care deeply about. And so before reciting Mourner's Kaddish, I want to invite everybody who has lost somebody to share their name in the chat, maybe their relationship to you. And the CBST community, all of us mourn the loss of our beloved member Jeffrey Weiss, Zichrono Livracha, who died on January 30th at the age of 60. And we extend our heartfelt condolences to CBST member Sasha Soref on the death of her beloved friend, Jan Gregory, Zichrono Livracha, who died on February 1st. We honor the yortzites of those CBST members who died at the season in years past: Alan Bornstein, Alan Kurtzman, Gerald Klein, Arlene Litvak, Howard Schwartz, and Rachel Tanur. Our family and friends Carol Austin, Mildred Boker, Harold Brooks, Rachel Goldfaden Adams, Mitchell Ingerman, David Jones, Marilyn Kartzman, Florence Kopstein, Rita Krasny, Betty Lefkowitz, Regina Lerner, Hilda Levine, Rita Matitya, Sarah Marcus, Alvin Margolis, Sheila Sue Monaco Arena, Risa Morris, Yechiel Novikov, Paul Rosen, Nathan Shapiro, Kim Spellman, and Albert Wannen. We also remember that we are part of a global community of loss, especially in this year, especially at this time. The CBST community offers condolences to the family, friends, and communities of all those who are dying each day from the COVID-19 pandemic. At the beginning of Shabbat, the total number of deaths were 26,856 in New York City, 43,200 in New York State, 444,330 across the United States, and 2,205,099 worldwide. We bring these souls into our hearts with our own, and we recite the words of Mourner's Kaddish that we will share on the screen. If it is your custom to be standing when Mourner's Kaddish is recited, I invite you to do so at this time. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach Yerutei ve'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalel v'yitalal. Shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. Damiran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. The last words of the Kaddish are words that are a prayer for peace. May the one who makes peace in heaven make peace for us. Make us agents of peace, all of Israel and all the world. And so we close the Kaddish with song.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'yimeru amen.
This morning we are grateful for all of the people who are supporting us in our community endeavors, who make it possible for us to hold a meaningful Shabbat morning service every single week, and for all you do to keep CBST going. So I want to honor Lorraine Basic and Karen Missick, in memory of Lorraine's mom's 56th yahrzeit and dad's birthday, February 7th of 1908. Great parents, salut. Sabrina Farber, in memory of my birthday twin, Jeffrey Weiss, Zichrono Livracha, a kind and thoughtful soul who embodied the ideals of Tikkun Olam. Zichrono Livracha, we will always miss you. Carol Feynman, to honor the memory of Jeffrey Weiss, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be a blessing to eternity. He is missed already. Susan Ingerman, in memory of my father, Mitchell Ingerman, Zichrono Livracha, on his yahrzeit. I miss the glory of my father's artistry. Lori Magid, Jeffrey and Henry Miller, and Molly Spellman, in remembering the light, laughter, and love of Kim Spellman on her second yahrzeit. Rachel Monaco and Jennifer Resnick, in memory of Rachel's beloved big sister Sheila on her 9th yahrzeit. You are so sorely missed and forever remembered. Julia Porper, in loving memory of Jeffrey Weiss, Zichrono Livracha, I will miss your smiles, your warmth, and your friendship. Lynn Rosenbluth and Sally Kopstein, in loving memory of Arlene Litwak, Zichrona Livracha, and Florence Kopstein, Zichrona Livracha. Andy Osberg and Michael Sonberg, in loving memory of Andy's mother, Carolyn Austin, Zichrona Livracha, on her 18th yahrzeit. Dr. Annika Cooper, in honor of Harold Levine, happy and healthy birthday in appreciation of all you do, the profound difference you make every day. Thank you. Lisa Kartzman and Janet Pavlov, in memory of Lisa's mother, Marilyn Kartzman, Zichrono Livracha, on her 3rd yahrzeit. Ira Rosenblum and Kenneth Carpel, in memory of Jeffrey Weiss, Zichrono Livracha. He was a stalwart in our community and will be missed, Zichrono Livracha. Linda Solomon and Bonnie Siegel, in honor of Harold Levine on his birthday, wishing him many more healthy ones. And congratulations to Nora, Miriam, and Rachel on leading services with Rabbi Rapport on Shabbat morning. By Leah Tracton and Regina Linder, to remember our friend Jeffrey Weiss, Zichrono Livracha, a wonderful citizen of CBST. Leah Tracton and Regina Linder also honor the loving memory of Regina's brother, Ralph Linder, Zichrono Livracha, on his 41st yahrzeit. And Shep Wanen, with gratitude to God to celebrate his birthday last Shabbat and the unexpected surprise that I actually made it. Shep Wanen, in memory of my beloved father Albert on his 10th yahrzeit. He inspired me to be a progressive liberal Jew. And many thanks to Michael Ekman, Sabrina Farber, Roy Feldhausen, Carol Feynman, and Calvin Klein Hoffman. We close our service today with a special song having special accompaniment, and Rachel will say a few words about this choice of melody.
We thought, in keeping with the themes of concentric circles and interconnectedness, we'd also think about the interconnectedness of time, and I will be playing Circle Game by Joni Mitchell. Yesterday a child came out to wander, caught a dragonfly inside a jar, fearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. Then the child moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over 10 clear frozen streams, where it's like when you're older, masterpieces and promises of someday make his dreams. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. 16 springs and 16 summers gone now. Cartwheels turn to car wheels through the town. And they tell him, take your time, it won't be long now, till you drag your feet too slow, the circle's down. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle game. So the years spin by, and now the boy is 20. Though his dreams have lost some grandeur coming true, there'll be new dreams, maybe better dreams and plenty, before the last revolving year is through. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle game. And go round and round and round in the circle game.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And this is a moment for gratitude. I want to offer my profound thanks to both Rachel and Nora, the architects behind this beautiful service. It is a custom at Yoga Meditation Shabbat to lift up the voices of our community members, and I'm so appreciative of your exquisite taste in music and poetry and meditation. Thank you for all of your hard work. Thank you to Patrice Ruel and Jason Zivic, without whom the Zoom room simply would not open. And we're so appreciative of all their hard work every Shabbat and every day at CBST. This yoga meditation minion always meets on the first Saturday morning of every month. And next month, I will be joined in leadership by Martin Brunner and Sasha Soreth. Martin is in the Zoom room. So Martin, if you want to wave, there will be meditation, music, and movement, some modern dance. And at this time next week, starting at 9:30, will be our CBST Liberal Minyan Shabbat, our Reconstructionist style service for Shabbat Shekalim. We are having some awfully exciting things happening in the next week at CBST. If you would like to close your Shabbat with us, as you may have opened it with us, as you celebrated it with us this morning, at 7 p.m. tonight, we have our Havdalah service, which is open to all. The Zoom link is in our website calendar. And blessings will be offered by Jessica Balk-Jones right at 7 o'clock. And then Rabbi Mike Moskowitz will be leading a teaching and discussion. On Monday, for members of the CBST community, we have our members town hall. This month's topic is vaccination, and Rabbi Kleinbaum will be joined by Dr. Nate Goldstein and Dr. Regina Linder to share some really important information and updates and how you can access these resources with our entire CBST community. CBST members, expect the Zoom link in your inbox on Monday, and a recording of the town hall will be sent out immediately thereafter. And this week, our Hebrew classes restart. I can see in our Zoom room so many of our over 60 strong Hebrew learners at every level. And this semester, on Monday and Wednesday, we are offering a brand new to Hebrew class from the very beginning. You can still sign up. We promise you're allowed in. And this is a twice weekly class with CBST educator Ron Weiss. You can start from the very, very beginning or have a refresher if it's been a minute, so that you can be a magnificent Hebrew learner like so many in this room who have moved up through the levels of their Hebrew literacy. And so I invite Rachel, Nora, and Sophie the dog to help me lead Kaddish and Motzi. If you have something delicious to drink, please hold it up for blessing. And if we're ready, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. L'chaim, everyone. And if you have something to bless for motzi, whether it is gluten-full, gluten-free, I don't know if Corey out there in Chicagoland has something that's gluten-free, or anybody else who picked something up or baked something at home. Jessica, I know, has a vegan challah. Leslie's holding up something delicious looking, as is Ari. That's a very impressive braid, Ari. And Sarah has something that all of us can connect to. So we are united in a chain of blessing as we recite Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, b'te'avon. So we will very shortly be unmuting everybody, so we have an opportunity to actually wish each other Shabbat Shalom, to say Boker Tov, good morning, how nice to see each other's faces. Just a couple loving words of reminder that this is a public space, so we treat one another with respect and kind language, all of those 10 commandments that we added to our list. And also, this is a place for human interaction, which means that if your camera is not on, we will gently move you to the waiting room of our Zoom room. So if you want to participate in a little Shabbos schmoozing, please turn your camera on. If you don't, no big deal. We will just move you to the waiting room and say Shabbat Shalom. Maybe we will see you at Havdalah. And so now Jason is going to allow everyone to unmute themselves. This is an act of mutual consent. If you would like to say Shabbat Shalom. We're so glad to see everybody this morning. Thank you for showing up to Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, that's true.